Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. We are here. Myself, I am Aaron Hoisington. I am with Ryan Nelson, who is the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management. You can also find his popular book, Your Fiscal Physical, 7 Keys to Becoming Financially Fit, on Amazon. Recommend it for everybody to check out. I actually have a copy right in front of me here, too, signed as well by none other than you, Ryan. And how are you today, my man?
I'm doing pretty darn well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm going to get this copy framed, as it's going to be worth billions of dollars one day.
There you go.
I can already tell for sure. So,
Smart.
I actually just read something. I heard something that one of Tom Brady's rookie cards, is one that was identified to be in the best mint condition, best signature on it or whatever, just sold for $120,000.
Wow.
And it was purchased by the Robert Kraft, the owner of the
really?
Patriots. Yeah, he just it was just one of the ones that he was like, oh, I want that, and just purchased it. But it's just funny to see how things, certain kind of worthless things, can appreciate if people want them.
Calling my book worthless?
Yeah, no, of course not. Supply and demand, though.
Yes.
Yeah. How many copies are actually out there?
Exactly.
But, anyway, today, Ryan, we're going to be talking. Since we're on the topic of books here, we're going to be talking about financial book recommendations or just book recommendations. We'll see kind of how the conversation goes. But I don't know about you, but we're in a digital age. That's just kind of where we're at. I mean, obviously, we're bringing this podcast to you. You guys are listening to us. You're not right in front of us as we're giving a conference or something like that. So I'm all for digital stuff. I enjoy the access that it gets us, but I still do love a good physical hard copy book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm guessing you're probably the same in that regard.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'll tell you that the vast majority of what I consume nowadays is digital. But I still love a physical book. But the honest truth is the majority of what I consume is digital these days.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's pretty much true for everybody as well. So when we say book recommendations, for some, still in my mind, a book is a physical product that I'm holding, right. I guess.
Yeah,
so maybe it's not to some of the people who are listening, but regardless, the point still stands that we're going to talk about some of your top financial book recommendations for our listeners that could help improve their financial literacy. And I'll just kind of turn it over to you here.
Cool. Yeah. So when you told me about this, I decided to do a top 5. If that sounds
Excellent.
Good to you.
Hell yeah.
Cool. So I'll go from 5 to 1. So 5th would be the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. So Dave's an interesting guy. I would say where this book excels and where Dave Ramsey's lessons are great is in the world of overcoming and paying off debt, becoming debt free, and living within your means. As far as getting rid of debt and living within your means, I don't know that there is a resource out there better than Dave Ramsey. When it comes to his take on the investment management, I think some of them are a little too broad, and there's some opportunity there, but I don't think anybody does debt management better than he does. So number 5 would be the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey.
Excellent. And I think that's a huge one, and we're going to build on that in some future podcasts where we talk about debt as well too. So I think that's something that I'm curious. Dave Ramsey, what was the name of it? It's a the Total Money Makeover. Total Money Makeover. Okay, cool. All right. What about for number 4?
Number 4, it sounds like you hadn't read that one, right?
I haven't read that one. No, honestly, I've read Your Fiscal Physical, and then that's my Bible. So, but I really haven't read many of these books overall. So I think Perfect. This is kind of going to be if I have read one of them, I'll pop in there.
Perfect.
But go ahead.
Perfect. Then number 4, I'd say Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's that book is most people have heard of this book. This is a pretty common book, and I think it's good around the mindset needed. The book talks about, I can't remember, it's been a long time since I read it, but the guy I can't remember if he has 2 literal dads or figuratively, But basically, there's one dad that he has is rich, one dad that he has is poor, and basically the difference in these two people's like lifestyle and knowledge, and it's just like a nice analogy for how to build wealth over your lifetime, which is cool. And he was the first person I think that I ever heard talk about your primary residence not really being an asset, which I tend to resonate with. And you always need basically a roof over your head. So if you buy a primary residence, you could count all your equity in that house. But at the end of the day, the only way you ever access that equity is if you sell it.
Sure.
And don't go buy a new house. Right. So yeah, I think he's got some really good data in there. Rich Dad Poor Dad, is that one you've heard of?
I definitely have heard of that one for sure. I think we actually may have talked about that maybe offline before, but I definitely have heard that one before. And I think you mentioned it specifically with like houses, and the house as an asset thing kind of really resonates with me there. So, which is funny. So one of our previous episodes where we talked about paying off your house. I sent that to one of my other buddies who's a financial advisor over in the Bay Area, and he's like, I love everything you said. He's like, except I think that house is an asset, and he like gave this whole big thing about it, and I was just like, nah. Like, so it's just kind of funny thinking about that.
It definitely is text, like by the law, like by the rule of the word asset, it is an asset, right?
Yeah.
Now, functionally, do we want to think about it as an asset is a different question.
I think that's where.
So he's not wrong. It definitely is an asset, but from a retirement planning standpoint, I think it's probably good to kind of separate it out.
Sure. Yeah.
But number 3 is The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. If you heard of that one, that's another popular one that a lot of people have heard of. Find less people have read, but a lot of people have heard of it.
I don't think that I've even heard of that one, to be honest.
So The Millionaire Next Door is a cool one. It's kind of, it's almost more novel-like, and but it talks about how, like, sort of your traditional millionaire. And, the classic example from this book, which I feel like lots of people have heard this example, is like the millionaire next door is the person driving like the 20-year-old F-150. And I don't think it ever specifically says this in the book, but my takeaway from the book, which I absolutely love, is you can either look rich or be rich. Mm-hmm. You can't be both. Right. And so for every new fancy car you buy, that's money that didn't go into your 401k or into your savings account, right? So no matter what, like no matter how much money you earn, every single fancy watch you buy is making you a little bit less. That's money that you could have alternatively put into your investments, right? And so his kind of philosophy, or at least my takeaway from his book was, again, you can either look rich or be rich. It's really hard to do both. And so you'll see these people, wearing the $5,000 suit, the $2,000 watch, driving the really nice car, and their net worth might be in the negative.
Sure.
They might have bought a really nice house. They might owe a lot of money on it. They might owe money on that car. They may not actually be rich. They look rich. They may not be rich. And then there may be the neighbor next door who's driving the 20-year-old F-150 wearing normal clothes. You'd never think, you'd never think anything about them, and the fact that they are still driving a 20-year-old car and they don't have the nice watch, and it's possible they were putting all that money into their accounts, and they're the ones that are actually rich and have the financial freedom. So that's a really, really classic one, The Millionaire Next Door. I love it. But let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This one is super cool. Morgan is he's kind of, I don't know how best to describe him. He's almost like a contrarian in the financial industry. He thinks differently than most people tend to think. And so he sort of talks about our biases, our personal biases, and the emotional factors that play into our financial decisions. So I know we talked an episode or two ago about the behavior gap. Yep. His whole book is almost about the psychological things that come into our money decisions that effectively create that money gap.
Fascinating. That stuff is wildly fascinating.
His book is really, really good. I really, really like that book. So Psychology of Money, that's a classic. And then the number 1, drum roll please. Have you heard of this book, The Fiscal Physical?
Yeah, you're darn right I have.
No, I can't help but put my book as number 1. I'm just too passionate about it. But since I kind of cheated there and put my book in there, I'll give us a bonus book here. And so there's another book out there called Die with Zero. It recently started becoming really popular. It's kind of it's like trending as of, the last couple of years. So Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. This book is an interesting book. This is not what I would say is my number one book. This would be, kind of a bonus book here. And I have a love-hate relationship with it. What Die with Zero is about, in my opinion, or at least my interpretation or my takeaway from the book, was it's around aligning your assets with your values. And not just saving to save, but but sort of again, aligning your assets with your values and making sure that you're not passing away with $10 million, but it didn't ever take a vacation with your family. Mm-hmm. That's probably not a good use of your capital, right? We want to save our money to enhance the quality of our life, and that's what he talks about here. And so it's if you have enough money, you should go do these meaningful experiences and build those relationships. And so in this book, it really talks, the target audience of this book is somebody, what you find, taking a step back, what you find is somebody who's a really diligent saver. And so accumulates a pretty good sized net worth. It's hard just to flip a switch and be a really diligent saver. And then the day you retire, just say, cool, now I'm going to be a good spender and go spend my wealth. Yeah. The diligent savers tend to transition into retirement, and it's hard for them to spend their money. They just spent the last maybe 60 years building wealth, right? And so what you find is some of these really, really good savers, they get to retirement, they have enough money to live the lifestyle they want, but they feel guilty spending it on a vacation, or they feel guilty paying for their family to go on a vacation, right? But the reality is they built this wealth for those things to enhance the quality of their life. They now have enough money to be able to justify that and not feel guilty about it, right? So this book, Die with Zero, was written specifically for that small demographic of people. The amount of people who are sort of oversavers, who have more money than they are currently with their current spending habits, are going to spend in their life. And so it's to help sort of open their eyes to the fact of let's use these assets, let's align it with your values, and let's make sure we have these meaningful experiences and build our relationships and use those assets to enhance the quality of our life. So that's awesome. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that can really resonate with everybody.
Absolutely.
That's a great lesson. Yeah.
The catch here is, again, it's written for that specific demographic of people. If you look at population type data, most of the population is behind on their savings, not ahead on their savings. And so what I do find, and you see on the internet and stuff, is a lot of people reading this book and using it as justification not to save. Like, oh no, I don't, I'm going to go on this vacation instead of save. It's like, no, this book was for somebody who already has the assets.
Gotcha.
Let's align those assets with your values to make sure you make the most of them. It's not justification not to save at all, right?
Yep.
So it's it's Die with Zero, again, it's that love-hate relationship. I love the meaning and the takeaway from it. I feel like it's been grossly misinterpreted with the general public, and unfortunately misinterpreted a few times to justify people's spending habits that aren't justifiable.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the fine line that one walks about hey, at what point is an experience worth what it's going to what's going to cost overall. It's okay, if I launch $10,000 on this, or what, the number is really arbitrary as far as but if I spend a lot of money on this experience, how much is that worth to me if now it puts me maybe years behind in my specific plan to where I'm that was great at age 30 for that 7 days, but now I got to work till I'm 68 instead of 65. I don't know. You got to balance that.
Definitely trade-offs, right?
Yep.
So you just want to be evaluating those trade-offs, and there's no right or wrong answer there. You could have two different people with the same data in front of them. One says, let's take the vacation. One says, no, let's retire early. Mm-hmm. Neither decision is right. Neither decision is wrong. It's just two different people with two different values. And as long as they properly understand the pros and cons, they're making the right decision for them. Mm-hmm. That's perfect.
Yep. No, that's well said there for sure.
So we'll summarize. Should we summarize those real quick?
Yeah, definitely.
So again, I threw the fiscal physical in there just for kicks and giggles. But the other 5 books are The Psychology of Money, The Millionaire Next Door, Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Total Money Makeover, and Die with Zero.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it there, Ryan. Like I said, I do have your fiscal physical literally right in front of me right now, so I'm excited to one day I think that hopefully it'll be up there with the likes of those books as far as best selling, and I really think that it's something that it covers a lot of these topics that we talk about on this podcast, and
absolutely.
it also like I think it's understated how helpful the graphs are in that, and the illustrations, and it's something that's so hard to do when you're speaking. Like it's just what it is. It's just downright impossible to. But in the book itself, and being able to actually visually see where there's a concept, it's explained in word, and then it's actually put into a graph or an illustration.
Yep.
Priceless, man. Like just so I think that you did an excellent job with that book, and I'm looking forward to see like where it goes, and hopefully I don't know if you're going to write another one there, but if at some point in your life you do, like you take what you've learned from that and just continue to make it better. So
thank you.
That's the hope. But all right, man, we'll go ahead and pause here, and we'll be back on the other side of this. Everybody, hang tight.
And now to put the personal in personal finance.
Welcome back, everybody, to this side of the Fiscal Physical with the personal section here. And so, Ryan, this one's for all our listeners who may have a significant other. So, hopefully everybody, but if not, maybe this is a good opportunity to learn something and take your future significant other out on a date. But we live in the Reno, Nevada area. I live in Sparks. You live in Reno, but potato here. Where would you say here in the Reno Sparks area is one of your favorite places to go on a date? You're at the time of recording, you're engaged, so
sure.
I'm just curious to see kind of where you enjoy going.
Yeah, I like doing lots of different stuff. Mm-hmm. A nice dinner is always fun. Even a not nice dinner, just going to like a sports bar. Sure. Grabbing. I consider sushi a nice dinner, but grabbing pizza, doing something like that, all of that stuff is super fun. But probably what I enjoy doing the most is like sporting events are probably my favorite. So going locally, Aces game, UNR basketball games, UNR football games. I think all of that stuff's super fun. Reno puts on lots of cool events. I always think those are fun. Mm-hmm. There's the what's it called? Art Town.
Oh yeah, Reno Art Town. Yeah,
Art Town in July.
July.
The rib cook-off, Hot August nights, the balloon races. Right, any of those things where people are putting so much time and effort into creating an event. Usually they're pretty cool, right? And so I like going there, appreciating. I think going to just shows. So local theater. My fiance Katie and I have gone to a couple of the local theater shows. They're always a blast. The Reno Broadway shows are also super cool.
Awesome. Those are super cool.
Comedy shows, right? So yeah, I think things, dinners, sporting events, just other local kind of events and shows would probably be my top go-tos. What about you?
Yeah, no, you hit on a lot of the different things. I just love food in general. That's one of the things that it gets me out of bed in the morning sometimes and puts me to sleep other times. So I think that just going to a nice dinner, whatever it might be, is phenomenal. You can find so many different good eats places here in Reno as well too. But you hit on just the event piece of it, and I think that it's super underrated about what Reno does put on, and just downtown. They're just hey, we'll just close downtown. I feel like almost every other weekend, right? There's a two streets that are closed off for some sort of event, a live free concert,
Wing Festival.
Yeah, there's an Italian festival that there's all sorts of different ones that go, like Mexican
Blues
Independence Day, Booze and Brew. Yeah, there's all these different ones that happen all the time, and you're like, wow, you just can wander downtown and see something that you might not have seen before. And so I think it's important to, at least be aware of these. And so you're like, oh, cool. I know that whenever I have friends coming to town, I'm almost like, oh, what should we do? Because sometimes I'm, a little bit more of a homebody these days now. And I'm like, oh, I can always find something to do. There's, the wine walk that goes on every third Saturday. You can just get out and hang out and with your friends. So there's so many different opportunities there. So I don't know if we really gave the listeners many things for this here, but I would say just take advantage of what's out there. I think that's my biggest advice is we have the opportunities and the the experiences here that you can get and normally are reserved for maybe a bigger city, or maybe a bigger city wouldn't do that. Just get out there and kind of enjoy what we have to offer.
Heck yeah, I love it.
So awesome, appreciate it, Ryan, and we'll go ahead and wrap this one up here, and I'll let you finish us off here.
As always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening, and as always, Stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.